Hello, 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 everyone, and welcome back to Spin Cycle Live. I am your host, Nathan Hale. It is great to see you all here on this beautiful Wednesday afternoon. It's finally starting to warm up outside a little bit, guys. It's finally not so abusively cold out right now. I gotta say, it was just a few weeks ago, not even that I was on this show telling you all that I was snowed in outside and there was no way I could leave my house. But here I am today and the sidewalks are almost unfrozen over. I do not have the luxury. I'm not one of you fancy students who drives their little car to school every day. I have to walk on the sidewalks to get to my classes every day. And it has been a pain. It has been a pain to get to where I need to go every day because they didn't properly salt the sidewalks around where I live. So when the snow came down, it didn't melt on the sidewalks. It just piled up there. And I know the snow's been melting, but still being cold outside. It's been melting and then freezing. So there's just these huge layers of ice all over all the sidewalks. So I have to walk on the road, and then I feel like I'm going to hit by a car. But I haven't yet, and I take those risks. But I'm here with you all, and that's all that really matters. I showed up, I did my job, and we're going to give you all the hot new news today, right? So many things to cover, so many things to talk about. Gotta start by telling you all, I had a bit of an interesting experience yesterday. I mean, the entire world is flipping out. At least the left is flipping out over Donald Trump, and I could not be happier about it. And one of my professors told us yesterday that we all should prepare now because we may be turning into farmers in the coming days, because all the entire government is just going to just collapse in on itself, and we're all going to have to farm and fend for ourselves and everything in this great big world out there. And I couldn't help but laugh just a little bit at the thought of that. That Donald Trump is really making people cry, and I genuinely love it. It makes me very happy. It makes me very happy. Because the left has been doing a lot of winning in their eyes over these past few years, and now it's our turn. It's our turn to win. It's your turn to cry, left, right? That's what I say to that. But we have so many stories to cover, so much to talk about. But I hope you are doing so good. Let me know how good you're doing in the comments down below. Tell me about your day. I hope it's been just as amazing as mine has been. If you are not already following the show on Twitter, Instagram, if you're not following me on Twitter, Instagram, Rumble, YouTube, all the places, go and look me up. Go and give me a follow at Homonatian. We love to have new people here. If you want to interact with me, come and find me on Twitter. Send me a DM. Tell me how great I am, right? Share all this with friends. Tell people how great the show is. We always need more people watching, and that's why I love you all so much, because you all consistently show up and come and sit with me. But let's get into our first story of the day, which is kind of surprising news for my part. I was not expecting this story to come out today, but Bob Menendez is getting some jail time, y'all. So disgraced ex. Let me make this a little bit bigger for you all. Let's see. Here we go. That helps a little bit. All right. Disgraced ex-senator Bob Menendez sentenced to 11 years in bribery case. So if you don't remember, Bob Menendez was a Democrat senator from New Jersey, I believe it was. And he had a whole little scuffle for being a foreign agent. Menendez made history as the first U.S. senator convicted as a foreign agent. So he was taking bribes, I think, from Egypt or something, while he was in the Senate. And thank God he was caught and he was prosecuted. But here's a story about all of that. So Judge Sidney Stein sentenced disgraced former Democrat Senator Bob Menendez to 11 years in prison on Wednesday, concluding his trial for a long-running bribery and foreign influence scheme of rare gravity. Prosecutors have requested a 15-year sentence for Menendez, who's 71. He's an old dude, by the way. Here's a picture of him. If you don't remember his face, he kind of looks like, y'all remember Mr. Toad? You know that like old Disney movie about Mr. Toad, and there was like a Disneyland ride called like Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. He kind of looks like Mr. Toad. Like, I'm sorry, I have to look up a picture. Mr. Toad. We're going off script right now. We're going off script. He kind of tell me that this does not look. Come on, tell me this doesn't look like Bob Menendez. Look at that picture. Okay, here's Mr. Toad. The Adventures of Mr. Toad. That's what it's from. And here's Bob Menendez. I'm sorry. I don't know if you all can see what I see, but I think he looks like Mr. Maybe it's like the eyebrows or something. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but anyway, so Menendez, let's go back. Okay, so back on topic, y'all. Back on topic. Nathan, get back on topic, Nathan. Okay, so anyways, so he's 71 after he was convicted on July 24th of 16 counts of bribery, extortion, conspiracy, and obstruction of justice. He is the first U.S. senator in American history to be convicted of working as a foreign agent. His co-defendant, Wale Hanna and Fred Dybels, were also sentenced to 8 years and 7 years, respectively. Good. This is great. I think there's a time and a place to prosecute people in politics, and one of them is when they're selling out their country to other places. I don't necessarily think that things that Trump did warranted the responses that he got, but absolutely, this does. So, as a proven trial, the defendants engaged for years in a corruption foreign influencing scheme of stunning brazenness, breadth, and duration, resulting in exceptionally grave abuses of power at the highest levels of the legislative branch of the United States government, prosecutors wrote. Menendez's conviction came after a 9-week-long trial. The former Democratic lawmaker was accused of accepting gifts totaling more than $100,000 in gold bars as well as cash. And what do you bet it was more than that? What do you bet it was more than that? Let's be so real for a second. What do you bet it was more than that? $100,000 seems a little too, doesn't seem like enough for everything that he went through, right? There's got to be more. I'm just speculating here, but I feel like there's got to be more. They just couldn't find it. So that's pretty much that whole story. Good things coming out. See ya, Bob Menendez. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. Hope you enjoy prison wine. But that's all I got about that. Moving on to our next story. Scott Bessent, I think that's how you say his name, makes history at Treasury as the highest-ranking gay official. So the Senate on Monday confirmed billionaire hedge fund manager and investor Scott Bessent as President Trump's Treasury Secretary, making him the highest-ranking gay official in the nation's history. The Senate voted 68-29 Monday evening to confirm Bessent, who's 62 years old, to lead the Department of the Treasury. He's the first openly gay person to hold the position, fifth in line to the presidency. So Bessent's confirmation comes after former Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg made history as the first openly, they're calling him openly LGBTQ cabinet member, but I think he was just a gay dude, to win the Senate confirmation 2021. In 2020, during Trump's first term, Richard Garnell became the first gay cabinet member when he was appointed acting director of national intelligence. In being confirmed as Treasury Secretary, Bessent is taking on the nation's highest administrative economic office and one of the biggest cabinet positions. So he said, quote, "If you had told me in 1984 when we graduated and people were dying of AIDS, that 30 years later I'd be legally married and we would have 2 children via surrogacy, I wouldn't have believed you," he said. So Susie Wiles, Trump's chief of staff, is the first woman to hold the position of White House chief of staff. And White House press secretary Carolyn Leavitt at 27 is the youngest in U.S. history as press secretary. So she said, quote, he just wants the best, most qualified people to serve in these positions, regardless of their sex, their gender, their sexual orientation, their religion, said Morin. Oh, actually, I don't know who that person is. Actually, I thought that was someone else talking. Excuse me, Charles Morin, who's the president of Log Cabin Republicans. That's what he said. That. Excuse me. Who recently announced his departure from the organization. Quote, we've got record levels of diversity, not for the sake of diversity, but because these are some of the best qualified people. So this is great. You know, stories like this come out, and first off, I mean, 29 Senate Democrats voted against Scott Bessent, right? 29 Democrats did. And had this been roles reversed, the Democrats would have been calling the Republicans the homophobic ones here. But when it's in this case, the Democrats just say, oh, well, we were making the best decision for the country and we didn't like Scott Bessent's credentials, blah, 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 right? So you see the double standard here. I'm not saying that it is homophobic at all. You know, they can vote however they choose to vote. You know, they're senators. They use their best judgment to their own means. But the double standard is real. And had this been roles reversed, that's what Democrats would have been saying against the Republicans. So I'm going to say it against the Democrats. Also, I also find it just comical that when people like Donald Trump appoint women, you know, people of color, gay individuals, right, to positions, he just says that he's pandering to those groups, right? He's just trying to make himself look good. But when the left does it, oh my gosh, they're social justice heroes for appointing, you know, this black woman, or for appointing this dude, whatever, blah, 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 blah. They're heroes, yada, 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 right? Well, when Trump does it, he's just pandering to the left, or he's just making himself look good, right? I had a whole tweet about this that kind of blew up a little bit on Twitter a little bit ago, yesterday, when I tweeted about this, and it really got some people pissed off because I thought I was serious, but I said something along the lines of, you know, 29 Democrats voting against the gay man. And it's true though. The double standard is real though. And frankly, I'm glad that we're getting people from the private sector into government. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think it's great, but the double standard is real, and that's all I gotta say about that. But congratulations to Scott Bessent. Had to talk about that. Fellow gay man out here getting into the highest position in U.S. government that people of someone like us has. So it's great to see. You know, I'm not a fan of appointing people based on diversity, right? But it's very encouraging to see people who you identify with, to an extent, get to those positions. And it's very empowering, right? And I find it empowering not because, you know, another gay man was able to make it to that point, but because he was immensely qualified to get there, and also happened to also be married to a man, right? So I think it's great. Like I said, I didn't feel empowered under Pete Buttigieg as transportation secretary. I didn't think he was qualified for the job. You know, and he got put on there because it was a diversity hire, in my opinion. But you know, Scott Bessent, you know, no mention was made about him being a gay man, and I didn't even know until I read the whole confirmation about that, which is like, just goes to show you that you know, the left loves to characterize people based on qualities like this, versus the right appoints people based on their merits. So great news coming from that, but let's move on. So a fork in the road. So this is from the Daily Wire. So Trump makes offer for millions of federal workers to resign. So the Trump administration is offering to buy out millions of government workers if they resign ahead of plans to bring dramatic reforms and cuts to the sprawling federal bureaucracy. The Office of Personnel Management on Tuesday sent out an email to 2 million federal workers offering to pay them until September 30th if they resign by February 6th. The message from OPM suggested that significant cuts were on the horizon and that it could not guarantee that everyone's position would still be in place with incoming reforms. The message sent to the workers was titled, quote, "A Fork in the Road," and discussed four major pillars around which the Trump administration planned to build the federal workforce. These pillars included working in an office, focusing on excellence, cutting the size of federal agencies, and increasing standards of conduct. Well, a few agencies and even branches of the military are likely to see increases in the size of their workforce. The majority of federal agencies are likely to be downsized through reconstructing, realigning, and reduction in force. And the message from OPM said, quote, "These actions are likely to include the use of furloughs and the reclassification to at-will status for a substantial number of federal employees." The offer was not sent to military personnel, postal workers, or employees working in immigration enforcement or national security. Great news. Love to see it. I've never been an advocate necessarily for reducing the actual workforce size of the government. I mean, when it comes down to it, the government really hasn't increased in size of personnel management since like the 1940s and 50s. So we've had about the same size bureaucracy for a while. But I'm also not against it. A lot of these people are not working for the good of Americans. And getting rid of a whole bunch of them, I think, makes room for people who support our mission and our goals and our ideologies, right? Which I try to be as center of the road as I can. But all of these agencies are leaning super far to the left. I mean, there's not a government agency I can think of that is at all representative of any sort of conservative values. So getting more conservatives in the door will help to bring those agencies more to the center, right? And I mean, there's no way that they could even fall into the far right, as far as I'm concerned right now, with the amount of leverage the left has still inside the bureaucracy, right? So, but this is great. I'll be interested to see how many people actually go out on this and everything. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how many federal employees are working for the government that would rather work somewhere else than work in an office. Because I think that will be the main people that decide to take the offer on this, is they don't have an office to go to, or they don't want to go and work in an office. So great news, interesting to see. We'll be sure to keep you updated on all that. So next thing. So the White House rescinds memo on freezing federal grants and loans. So if you didn't know, there was a huge spending freeze by the Trump administration, and I guess some of that was rescinded just a little bit. So let's get into the story. So the White House says it has rescinded a memo authorizing a federal freeze on hundreds of billions of dollars in grants and loans, which sparked widespread panic among millions of people who rely on government aid. It comes after a judge temporarily halted the order on Tuesday, only hours after it was signed by President Donald Trump and the memo announcing it was issued by the Office of Management and Budget. So this is not a rescission of the federal funding freeze. It is simply a rescission on the OMB memo, she said. So this is Caroline Leavitt, who's the press secretary of the White House. She said, quote, "Why? To end any confusion created by the court's injunction, the president's executive order on the federal funding remain in full force and effect and will be rigorously implemented." So earlier this week, the acting head of the White House Budget Office had instructed agencies to, quote, "temporarily pause all activities related to obligations or disbursements of all federal financial assistance." The office said the move was intended to give the new administration time to assess what grants and loans were in step with their agenda. So I'll be interested to see where this goes. I think that we totally need to get our spending under control as a country. But I'll be interested to see what ends up getting impacted. I'm a student, so I receive federal Pell Grant money every year because my income is so low, my family's income is so low. So I'll be interested to see if any sort of like Pell Grant money is suspended, or any kind of like federal student loan programs or anything. That's at least where I'm coming from it as a student. From what I understand, this doesn't impact Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, stuff like that, programs that people rely on to live off of. This does not impact that. This impacts other things, though. So, for example, like one of my university professors, he got a notice that because he got a federal grant, that he was to stop working on the research that he had gotten grant funding for immediately. So impacted stuff like that. So interesting to see. Just thought I'd bring it up. We got a bunch of short little stories here. I feel like I'm flying through a lot of things real fast, but hopefully you're all keeping up. I know you are. You're smart people watching this. I know you got this. So, all right. Next story from the New York Post. So Trump ordering review to identify, punish, and deport anti-Semites, including students on visas. See ya. You protested on a campus. You camped out. Bye-bye. Bye, Felicia. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. Be on your merry little way, right? All right. So in Washington, President Trump is expected to sign an executive order Wednesday instructing all federal agencies to identify civil and criminal authorities available to combat anti-Semitism, including finding ways to deport anti-Jewish activists who violated laws, the Post has learned. The order requires agency and department leaders to provide the White House with recommendations within 60 days and outlines plans for the Justice Department to investigate pro-Hamas graffiti and intimidation, including on college campuses, according to a document describing the order. The executive order calls for the deportation of resident aliens, including students with visas who broke laws as part of anti-Israel protests following the October 7th, 2023 terrorist attack that sparked the investigation of Gaza, the document reviewed by the Post says. The report focused heavily on Columbia University, the site of a large encampment that featured many documented instances of anti-Jewish remarks against both pro-Israel activists and Jewish students, and noted that alleged permissive colleges took in $2.7 billion in federal funds in fiscal year 2023. So here's some protests that were happening. This is from the Day of Rage mark from June 10th, 2024 in New York. Couple more protests in here. Do they show the one with the encampment on it? Where's that at? I feel like there was one somewhere. Gosh, it was a good one though. I don't know. I guess you can't see it. But anyways, I think it's great. If you commit a crime in our country and you're here on a visa, see ya. Bye. Get out of here. We're not a country that houses criminals. We are not Australia. We are not a prison colony, right? If you commit a crime here, let's send you on your way, right? You don't get to be here anymore, okay? We give out visas, and that is a privilege that you get coming into our country. You're a guest in our home. If you're going to come and be a guest in our home and commit crimes, see ya. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. Bye. Get out of here. Deport. I don't care. Get them out of here. Terrible people, right? And the fact that universities even permitted students to take up encampments on their campuses is insane to me. And we still have not had the answers of how did these students even get the supplies and find out that this stuff is happening in the first place, right? When all those encampments were happening, how did they find out that was happening? Where did all the tents come from? Someone had to buy all those tents. I've never met a single college student that's owned a tent that was that readily accessible to them just to like whip it out and have like be on an encampment. I want answers on this stuff, people. I want answers. All right. Our last story of the day. Our last story. Great executive order signed by Donald Trump on Tuesday. So Trump signs executive order protecting kids from irreversible gender transition procedures. President Donald Trump signed an executive order on Tuesday protecting children from irreversible gender transition procedures, calling them a stain on our nation's history. Damn right it is. The order describes the transgender procedures that doctors and activists have pushed upon children in recent years and states that the United States will not fund, sponsor, promote, assist, or support the attempted gender transition of a child, promising that it will, quote, rigorously enforce all laws that prohibit or limit these destructive and life-altering procedures. Quote, across the country today, medical professionals are maiming and sterilizing a growing number of impressionable children under the radical and false claim that adults can change a child's sex through a series of irreversible medical interventions, the order states. Quote, this dangerous trend will be a stain on our nation's history and it must end. The countless children soon regret that they have been mutilated and begin to grasp the horrifying tragedy that they will never be able to conceive children of their own or nurture their children through breastfeeding, the order continues. Moreover, these vulnerable youths' medical bills may rise through their lifetimes as they are often trapped with lifelong medical complications, a losing war with their own bodies, and tragically sterilization. Significantly, it also describes the, quote, blatant harm done by children by the flawed guidance from the World Professional Association for Transgender Health, WPATH, an organization that lacks scientific integrity and tells parents that their children will kill themselves if they do not obtain so-called gender-affirming care. The order refers to WPATH as junk science. For those who don't remember, the WPATH report came out last year, and it outlines everything that had to do with child gender transition and the fact that the WPATH, which is the governing organization over the standards of care for transgender medicine, was literally junk science according to themselves. They had their own sources, their own doctors saying that children cannot consent to these procedures. Kids don't know what's happening to them, right? A lot of times children grow out of these things, out of feeling these transgender ideologies, right? This was all from WPATH, right? That was all privately, though. Publicly, they were promoting things like saying, yeah, absolutely, your kids are going to kill themselves if you don't let them cut their penis off, right? So junk science, screw you, WPATH, right? That entire supervising organization should be disbanded. WPATH, by the way, is filled with activists. Most medical organizations, most professional medical organizations are filled with only doctors and professional medical service folks, right? WPATH is filled with activists and doctors. So they're activists giving doctors advice on how to handle patients. That's not medicine, right? This has been the stuff that people like me have been fighting against for years now, and this is a step in the right direction, okay? So let's finish the story. So within 90 days of the executive order signing, it states the Secretary of Health and Human Services, which hopefully will soon be RFK, will publish a review of the existing literature on best practices for promoting the health of kids with gender dysphoria or other identity-based confusion. Trump's order also directs the heads of his agencies to, quote, immediately take appropriate steps to ensure that institutions receiving federal research or education grants end the chemical and surgical mutilation of children, unquote. The order puts the responsibility of HHS, puts responsibility on HHS to, quote, take all appropriate actions to end the chemical and surgical mutilation of children. Thank God for this. So what does this order do? All right, this order stops federal money from going towards these procedures, from going towards this research, from promoting this in any way. It is now the position of the U.S. government that this is junk science, this is bad for our citizens, and it should be banned and outlawed outright. It does not stop these procedures happening today. It will take legislation to do so, and we need to continue to put pressure onto our congressmen, onto our state legislatures to pass legislation that bans these procedures in our states and eventually nationwide, right? These are bad things that are happening to kids. They cannot consent to this stuff. All form of surgical removal of healthy body parts off of children, no matter how big or small they are, should be banned outright. There is no reason to remove a healthy piece of a child's body, regardless of what that is, right? For any reason, unless it is absolutely medically necessary, right? But there's no reason why we should be doing this. We have other procedures in this country that are affecting both men and women, where we're removing healthy body parts of kids that are not transgender whatsoever. That should be banned as well. In with all this stuff, I throw it all into the same category, right? Get rid of it, ban it all, right? If you are born with that body part, it should stay on your body, right? Until you are at least old enough to make a genuine decision about that, which in my opinion is at least 18 years old, okay? So, and by then, hopefully you know better and you've come to accept your body to be the way that it is. Okay. So this is all great news from the Trump camp. Looking forward to see where the ball starts to roll in all of this. But I gotta say, I'm disappointed by Donald Trump. I'm very disappointed by Donald Trump because he promised us, Donald Trump promised us all that I would be tired of winning by now, that I would tire of winning. I am not tired of winning yet. I am not tired of winning yet. I demand more winning. I demand more winning. We need more of it. I'm not tired of it yet. More winning. Give me more winning. I'm not done yet, right? Hope we all feel the same way. But that is the end of today's episode. I hope you all enjoyed it. We have so many more things to cover in the coming weeks. We will be back next Monday with another installment of the show. Hope you all enjoyed the episode today. If you want to keep up with me, give me a follow on Twitter, right? That's where you're going to see the most updates from me. Anything about the show will be over there, right? Post a ton of good stuff. A lot of stuff that is posted over on my Twitter does not make up on the show. Only a few stories I end up talking about on Twitter do end up making on this show. So if you want to see even more of my opinions, even more of what I have to say about what's going on, follow my Twitter, look at my feed and everything. You'll see them. I tweet a whole lot more than I can cover on this show. I mean, if I went through my whole feed for this show, it would be like a 3-hour long show, right? So go follow me over there. Keep up what I'm talking about. But thank you all for watching. We'll be back here on Monday. Hope you all have a great weekend. Enjoy it. By the way, Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl. If you're a Kansas City fan, go Chiefs. I'm not a football fan whatsoever, but I'm excited for the potential of having a 3-time Chiefs win in the city that I live in right now. That's pretty exceptional, right? Pretty phenomenal. But have a great weekend. I hope you all enjoyed. Thank you so much for spending the past 30 or so minutes with me. I appreciate it so much. But yeah, share this with friends. Let people know how great this show is. Let me know how great I'm doing. Hope you all enjoyed it. And with that, we will catch you in the next one. I have been Nathan Hale. See you again on Monday. Peace out.